Hi, hello, how are you? My name is Maddie, and if you are new here, then welcome to my channel. I'm a cross-genre author working on my urban fantasy debut, which will be publishing this September. And if you're not new here, then thank you so much for coming back. It means the world to me. I recently got a promotion at work, and so that was really exciting. It has been a bit of a learning curve, and I've just been so tired at the end of the workday that I have not been writing, and I've been taking a break from Instagram because honestly, at the end of the day, when I'm so tired, Instagram is so overwhelming. And I do love social media, and I'm very grateful to it for allowing me to find and connect with people that I never would have otherwise. However, on the other side of that, since the algorithm is pretty good at its job, I'm constantly seeing other writers, and in the amount of time that it's taken me to write and edit one book that's not even done yet, I feel like people have produced like 2 or 3 books, and sometimes it's just discouraging to just be like, why can't I create at that speed? What am I doing wrong? Or why can't I handle putting things out that quickly? Because I want to have something published, but I'm not there yet, right? So I just wanted to take the time both to like remind myself and you, if you needed, why it is important to make slow art in such a fast-paced society. And this is not, if you are speedy just as your normal pace, I'm not saying your art is bad by any means. This is more for people. I have seen authors putting out work at an inexplicable speed, and when you pick it up and read it, you see these glaring mistakes, whether grammar, punctuation, just kind of more boring mistakes, or you're not seeing plot development or character development or even character to develop. You are not seeing a deeper message behind the story, or it's just an idea cobbled together through some connecting scenes. And I think that like kind of junk food branch of writing is definitely coming into more of this like collective awareness. And I think that's really because I don't think reading has ever gone out of style, and I don't think it ever will. But it has definitely exploded into the mainstream with the rise of book talk. And I think we saw a lot of people picking up books who haven't read since high school, or they didn't even know the last time they read a novel. So when you are out of practice, just like with a sport or something physical, reading is a skill. So when you're out of practice, you're going to gravitate towards easily accessible work. And I think Colleen Hoover had a huge moment. And even though she's still getting her bag, every day I see new people kind of switching to like being a coho hater. And that's because as the skill of reading progresses, you start to notice these lack of nuances, the lack of care into her art. She's writing a lot, but she's writing so quickly that her plots are the same, and she's relying on trauma and big emotions to manipulate her readers' emotions into thinking they read something deeper than they did. And I think there's something to be said then for taking the time to make art that is good, even in a world where we are constantly getting new information, we're constantly shown new content, and it's impossible for any one person to keep up with it. So I just want to encourage us to let go of this game of comparison where we have to be putting out as much work as someone else, or we have to be keeping up in order to stay relevant in this like constant scrolling, doom scrolling. And if you're not posting 3 times a week, then you're not going to grow organically. I think, yes, there are strategies we can follow on social media or whatever to grow and be successful, but I am not going to let myself get caught up into that if it comes at the expense of making art that I am proud of. So, if you are in the same boat as me, our affirmation for this year is that we should never feel bad for taking the amount of time we need to make something that we are proud of. Because the truth of the matter is, if you are not proud of your art or you don't have that inner confidence in your art, nobody else is going to give it to you. Or even if people are receptive to your work, the minute someone says this is horrible, it's going to shatter that external validation if you don't have the internal validation in your own work. Because here's the other thing is, no matter how hard you work on something, you will never make everyone happy. So that's why you have to do it for yourself. You have to make it to your standards, hold yourself, to whatever that standard is, and have that confidence in your work, because you will never fully get it from external sources. And if that means it takes you 3 years to write and edit and publish a book, and it takes you 3 years to write and edit and publish a book, and that's what I'm telling myself, that this is the amount of time I need to make something that I am proud of. And even if that's longer than what somebody else could do, that's okay. It's not a race. And I know that earlier drafts I had, if I had just pushed them and gotten them out, I wouldn't be as proud to have my name on that. We unfortunately have to brand ourselves as individuals, as artists these days, and everything we put out is attached to that name and your branding. Do I hope, or do I think that TCF will be the best book I ever write? No, and I hope it's not, because it's my first book. But I know that I'm making TCF the best book that I can make right now. And that's good enough for me. And hopefully that's good enough for readers. And if it's not, that's okay. This is, I think, especially apparent with the MCU. I recently rewatched Iron Man, and I was just blown away. Number one, by how good it looks. Like, it has held up. When was it released? Like 2011, I want to say. And it looks so good, which is insane, because some of these CGI techniques that they're starting to implement just look so cheesy and bad. Anyways, the writing is also so good. Tony Stark's journey from just this flippant billionaire playboy to being Iron Man is really well done. It's beautifully done. His internal conflicts align and are challenged by the external conflicts. His want versus need is very clearly shown, and it is just a superb movie. And Marvel had a really good formula with strong character driven movies. Even though there's action, they had that core character building and exploration for their heroes, and that's what built their brand. That's what built the MCU to having billion-dollar box offices by the time Avengers rolled around. And I think that I don't think it's controversial to say that they have kind of destroyed their brand, since they dropped in quality of writing and opted for quantity. The MCU is so saturated, especially in these last few years, since they flooded Disney Plus with originals. They are pumping out movies like nobody's business, and that has led to almost like this public or collective I think people are tired of superhero movies, for one, and two, recent movies have not been impressive in terms of the writing. They're opting more for cheap jokes instead of character, and just that heart that built up the MCU brand is no longer present. And I think that people are really aware of that, and audiences are not happy with the state of the MCU right now, because what built the brand is no longer a part of the brand. And when you have an expectation that you set, when you are not putting out work that meets that expectation, people are going to be upset, and rightfully so. Marvel is even nominated for their first Razzie Award with Ant-Man Quantumania, and I haven't even seen like half of what the MCU has. I don't think. I am not like super into it, but I think that, yeah, I don't think it's a controversial opinion to say that their quality has declined, and that is a big part in the writing, as well as the oversaturation of this kind of content. So, especially in the Marvels case, slower is better, because you don't want to burn your audiences out before you run out of stories to tell, or you have so many stories you want to tell, but if you just constantly like beat your audience with just this one thing over and over again, they're going to get tired of it. On the flip side, still in the Marvel universe, Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse, though I have not seen like a single person say that they did not enjoy those movies, and they had years in between them. We're not going to get the third one until like 2026, I think, so years again. But the writing is incredible, the storytelling is incredible, the characters, people love it, the animation is unique and different and beautiful and matches the story. So I think if you need solid proof that slow art is better, look at Marvel's own Disney Marvel versus Sony Marvel. And I also truly believe that when it comes to this low quality, big quantity, when I think of what my legacy as an author, as a writer, I want my books to be someone's favorite book, right? Like, more than making millions in sales, which just probably will never happen. Like, that's a big thing. But more than like more than selling millions of copies, having what I write impact someone to where it's like on their minds, or just like stays with them for months afterwards, that's what I want. And I don't think that any of these low quality, trope driven stories are anyone's favorite. It's just content to consume, and you read it or you watch it and you move on with your day, and it ultimately impacts you none. And if that's what someone wants to write, that's fine. Obviously there's a market for that, and obviously people need escapism, silly little escapism every once in a while. It's just not what I want, and I think that that's something that we just have to keep in mind. When you're making art, what do you want your impact or your legacy to be? What do you want to give people? So for myself, since I want that harder impact, I have to make sure I'm taking the time to write things out with nuance, or to write things with nuance and character development and all these things that are so important to me. I think there are a lot of good examples where you can kind of see this decline. A lot of people really liked Fourth Wing. I actually rated it very highly, but I understand it's not a good book I haven't thought about it since I read it, really. So if I would go back, I would definitely lower the rating. And then Iron Flame came out, and a lot of people were like, what is happening? Like, what is going on in this story? Nothing is going on. Or the main character is just like the same things just happening over and over again. And Rebecca Yarros was definitely on a tighter deadline to get the book out sooner. And right? Like, I just think if she would have had more time, she could have made a better story. Maybe or maybe not. I don't know. But I would like to believe that if she had more time, she would have made a better story. And even though these things are still popular, in the short run, again, it's like, what is going to last beyond this Instagram trend? What's going to last beyond this impermanence of social media fads? And I think that Iron Flame won't. The Marvel, this like wave or phase of Marvel won't last, but Iron Man will last. Obviously classics, they're kind of there already, but there are books written today that I think will become classics in the future because they were written with care and they were written with intention, and the author had the time to fully express what they wanted to express. That's what I had for today. Just kind of, if it takes you time, it takes you time, and that's okay. And of course, I hope that I will get faster at some point. Whatever time I need to make things to where I'm happy with them is the most important thing, and making things to where you're happy with them is the most important thing to you. And I think that's where it should be. We shouldn't be rushing ourselves because the market is still there today, tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow. So if you need to take your time, it's okay. And I will see you in the next one.